Hey everyone, it's Danielle Marie from the One Realty here in Austin, Texas. And if you're reading the headlines and you're reading the title of today's live stream, it is that the new pendings here in Austin. So my week over week, what I'm looking at tracking, we fell by 22%. We have not had this low number of pendings since the week after President's Day weekend. So this past week, we only had 174 houses, 174 homes go pending in Austin for single family homes. Now, last week we were at 223, which was our high for the year. But dropping down, that is a drastic drop. So one thing you'll see, if you're just joining me, my name is Danielle Fountain. I'm the founder of the One Realty here in Austin, Texas. I take a data-driven, all-in-one approach to real estate. So my goal is to always bring you data and information so that when you're making your decision, you can make a well-informed, educated decision. With that being said, I like to look at leading and lagging and different type of indicators that are going to give you an idea of what is happening in the Austin market. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, me seeing this week over week drop, and it's not a holiday weekend. Granted, the stock market's kind of been kind of crazy, but we also had lower interest rates going in on Friday compared to the prior week. So what I'm going to do is we're going to hop in and we're going to talk from what happened 16 April all the way to the 23rd of April. I like to stay Wednesday to Wednesday. It's before new listings hit the market on Thursdays, and it's also wrapping up the pendings that happened over the weekend. So without further ado, I'm going to hop into this. Feel free to like, follow, subscribe, depending on if you're on YouTube, if you're on X, or if you're on Instagram, so that you can get an update, as well as you can find this information again when you're looking for it. Also, feel free to share it out. It helps other people find me and the information. So without further ado, we are going to talk about this week, what is happening in the inventory. And we're also going to talk about what you should do as a buyer or seller. Okay, first and foremost, the numbers that I give you, these are for all single family homes, so no condos in the city of Austin. Yes, I work outside the city of Austin. I work in Lakeway, BK, Round Rock, Georgetown, all of those different surrounding cities. However, I like to present you with the data specifically for Austin. If you're looking in a specific area, we drill down even further to plus or minus 20% of your square footage, as well as within a certain radius of your house. So this is general data. Use this as general market knowledge. But if you are looking to buy or sell, you need to have a more detailed and micro analysis where what you're doing. So first and foremost, we are looking right here at our active listings. So you're going to see our active listings, we went up another 105 this week at 3298. That was actually kind of a reprieve because the prior weeks we've been going up by 200 plus as far as like what our net is. So that it might not sound like a good thing, but it might be a good thing for sellers as far as there's not as much inventory floating on the market. Now, this also there could have been a push early in the market. People might have been listing their houses earlier this year. It did seem that way. It'll be interesting to see if there's a slowdown in new listings coming to market. With that being said, we are smack on with our average price point from last year around that 1.2. It was 1.235 is kind of where we were last year. We're very dead on at that again. This year, you're going to see week over week and kind of what changes. These aren't any drastic changes, especially when it comes to listings, because we are doing it over almost 3,300 listings. So it's going to kind of change things. Now, there are some leading indicators that I like to always point out. So yes, you see the median price point, you see the average price point. We're going to talk about what's pending, which is actually gives you an idea of what buyers are buying out in the area. Now, this is kind of one of my first red flag going on too. And I've talked about this every week. When we start seeing days on market build, when days on market are building, that means inventory is sitting longer, typically because buyers aren't out there. And when I say buyers aren't out there, there are buyers out there, but there is not as many buyers. Our absorption rate, like how many houses are selling, what is being absorbed compared to what is coming to the market, our absorption rate is going down. Once again, there's some really great areas that do go quicker. So this is not the entire market. You have to look at your micro market. With that being said, though, we are seeing days on market go up. So we went up by 4 days for our median, which is huge. And our average went up by 1 day. Now, we talk about this every week, but when you have houses sitting longer, they're more likely to have a price reduction. The median price reduction typically happens around day 27. So you can see right here, that would make sense that 46.63% of our active listings have had a price reduction. That is a 1.25% increase week over week. This is our 5th straight week of increases in the number of active listings that have had a price reduction. So if you are a buyer out there, that is phenomenal news. You can kind of, if the house has been sitting longer, it's going to be advantageous to you when you're making negotiations. Now, that being said, if a new house comes on the market, don't necessarily use all this information to figure out how you're going to make your offer. New houses are treated differently those first 7 to 14 days. Your negotiation period, depending on what the market around you is, it might not be as strong because there could be buyers waiting for the one house sitting out there. Use this information if you're looking at older houses specifically, and we can kind of dive into that one-on-one if you want to. Just reach out and we can kind of talk about that. With that being said, our days on market have gone up. Our number of listings with a price reduction has jumped again. We jumped almost 100. So 89 houses of our number or total number increased on their price reduction. So we're at 46.63%. The lowest we got was around 41%. Last year's high was 57%. We are creeping up there. That being said, if you are a seller, if you have an active house on the market, please, please, please reach out to your real estate agent and have your real estate agent do another market analysis. So if you remember in 2022, not to say we're going to go that direction, but I'm just preparing people. In 2022, I was tracking these data and I was kind of watching it, and I wasn't publicly reporting it. But I could literally see when buyers stopped buying in June and July, and then it was just a ghost town by August. I am seeing a slowdown in buyers already happening. So don't wait a month to all of a sudden adjust your price or adjust your strategy towards selling your house. You need to start looking at your strategy now. And perhaps you're in an area that has phenomenal sales, and your phenomenal sales, it's not going to affect you. You need to know that. Or you're in an area where there's houses that are being dumped on the market. Get to know your area. It's very, very important. It's not just about putting a pretty house on the market with videos and advertisement. You need a lot more than that. So, okay, with that, that is a good thing. If you're an investor, if you're a buyer and you've got a little bit more time and you're not, and there's maybe multiple options, take your time in buying. This might be to your advantage right now. Now, the next thing we're looking at is the new listings over the past 7 days. So we fell by 113. Remember I said last week our delta was over 200 week over week difference. This is where it comes into. We had a little bit fewer houses that were hitting in the market. That is good. If you are a seller, that's good in the sense that there's not as much competition coming on. If you are a buyer, houses are still stacking up. Maybe if you're looking for the one and we're seeing a reduction in the number of new listings coming to the market, that means if a new house hits the market, you need to take advantage of that. So, and then relisting, these are houses that were relisted, previously listed, not a lot of them. You are seeing our average price point and our median price point week over week do kind of drop down a little bit, which is to your advantage. So next, we're going to look at pendings. And so this is where, if you've seen my headline right now, you're seeing we have a drop of 22% week over week. And I will just hop straight into that and show you that data. So I keep track of, hey, here's all like the pendings, how many houses are going pending each week. So here we are this week. I do from Wednesday to Tuesday. So it would be, so for next week, you'll see data from the 23rd all the way to the Tuesday. So, and I pull these numbers the morning of this, so I get the most accurate numbers. So we are seeing right now only 174 new single family houses, new pending listings. So there was only 174 houses that went pending over this past week span. Guys, that's not a good sign for sellers, for buyers. It actually might be to your advantage. If we look back, and I talked about this earlier, you can see kind of where we are week over week and where we're the slowest. You can see that Valentine's Day, President's Day weekend, you can see, hey, we dropped down. This is the lowest that we've been since February. And if you think about that, we should be trending up. To drop down 22%. And the other thing, to drop down 22% is big. Now, what I will say, let me caveat this is why I love data. Last Friday, this Friday, we were at 6.87%. The prior Friday, and this is why interest rates matter. The prior Friday, we were at 7.07% is what we left the prior Friday, so like 2 weeks ago. So a lot of times buyers are getting approved, they're doing all their due diligence that week, and that was where this past Friday, which is almost a week ago, we were at a 6.87. So it will be interesting to see if we see a jump and an increase in buyers. Are we going to see that increase? We might, but that's really one of my big, hey, red flags. We're seeing number of active listings with a price reduction has increased. We are also seeing days on market go up. Now we're seeing the number of buyers that are starting to pull back. So if you're just joining me, my name is Danielle Fountain. I'm the founder of The One Realty here in Austin, Texas. Would love nothing more for you to like, follow, subscribe. Also, share this out to people so that other people can see it. And then if you save it, it helps you find my data more interesting. Not more interesting, I hope not, but find my data again. Now, with that being said, I do have the comment section up here. So if you do have a comment, feel free, or a question while I'm going through this data, feel free to leave it. And then we can kind of talk about that. So next things is we are going to talk about this pending listing. So week over week, our net number of active pending, total pending listings, we're over 1,000, which we're a little bit late to the game if we compare prior years, but we didn't really change. So we talk about houses that are being sold, houses that were under contract that fell out, houses that are new under contract, which we were lower this week. The fact that our net only went down 3 when our actual number of pendings dropped substantially, that's probably a good sign in the sense that maybe houses didn't fall out, or maybe just they haven't been reported that they're sold. So it kind of goes both ways. Now, this is that new weekly pending 174. So the fact that this is only going 3 down and we have that 49 less means there's probably some that are longer as far as closing dates, but maybe also more stayed under contract during the option period. An option period in Texas is the time that we negotiate to be able to do all of our due diligence and then also have a time to renegotiate with our sellers if you are a buyer. And that going said is if you are a first-time home buyer or maybe a first-time home buyer in Texas or a buyer that just hasn't bought in a while in Texas, I conduct online first-time home buyers or new home buyers seminars. So feel free to reach out and we can set one of those up by Zoom. Okay, with that being said, our average price point. So this is kind of good. We did see week over week, our average price point and our median price point did go up. And these are what is currently pending. This is kind of where you're seeing, hey, we've kind of gone up. I use this as an indicator to see what's going to happen to our sales, like what is going to happen to the average price point for the sold price. This will kind of give me an idea. So this right here, great. We're seeing what houses are priced at, but we're also seeing substantial price drops. That's like, hey, everyone's wish list. Let's actually look at the hard data. Let's see what's going under contract and what's not. Totally expect this here. So our days on market, you can see it dropped down by 2. Our median stayed the same. What that is telling me is that the new houses that hit the market, there are buyers out there waiting. And if the house that's right hits the market, it's taken off the market. So once again, if you like a house, act fast. Now, the number of houses with a price reduction, we just pretty much stayed exactly the same. So nothing as far as pending wise changing there. Next, we're going to hop into our close. So a lot of times people look at this close data, they're like, yes, close data, that's awesome. But you have to remember, close data is about 30 days late. My real good data is going to actually come right in here. Just because close data, the market has changed. By the time this house is closing out, we're looking at this data right now for April. These are probably the houses that went under contract at the mid-March, end of March. Maybe a few of them are the beginning of April that we're seeing. So I'd say 704 houses have closed out in my rolling 30 days. That is an increase. I expect to see an increase, especially with our pendings continuing to go up. If we even go back a few weeks, we were down real low in the 900s. So this is a good thing that we are seeing our number of pendings. We had the absolute worst. When I say absolute worst, in the past 20 years, our numbers for March, it was the lowest number of sales for single family houses in Austin in this past March. That's why I also think some of the other indicators are kind of pointing to, hey, this is going to turn more into a buyer's market sooner than later. With that being said, our average sales price at 844 week over week dropped 18,000. Not surprised, considering our average pending price is right here, 842. What does that mean? I still think we're going to see, as we look at like what's going to close out in April, we're going to see this average price continue to go down. Same with our median price point at 634 and 645. It's probably going to stay relatively the same, but I do expect our average to drop down. For days on market, once again, these right here, they're lagging indicators. They're really, this is what we're going to be seeing soon. So I think we're still going to see some drop down coming in for our average. Our median might start to shift up a little bit, which is just based here on this data. Now, the meat and potatoes that you want to take away from this, especially if you're writing offers or if you're a seller that's receiving offers, you want to know what are people closing at around the house. Now, this is macro. You need a micro in for your specific house. But that being said, if we look at our close price to average price, you're looking that houses are closing out, I'd say 2 to 2.5% under the current list price, and that's the list price. If we look at original list price, we're anywhere from like 3 to 5% is what we're seeing. How does that compare? A couple things is, okay, great, Danielle, you told me this information. How does that compare historically? Like, is that normal? How does it compare to last month? Let's take a look at this. So we are going to look at our monthly numbers, and this is where I love my data again. So here is where we are for the month of April. Now, granted, this is from yesterday when I pulled the data. Obviously, we probably have had an increase in this too as well. So far, as of yesterday, 471 houses have closed here in Austin. You're seeing that average price point at 847. Our median is 650. Like I previously said, based on our weekly numbers right here, that 844 and 634 that are like the rolling 30, as well as looking at what is in this area, I expect, and I'm putting my prediction out there now, based on data. Now, I'm not an economist, but I love numbers, is that we're going to go down our year over year. This is going to be the first month that we're going to see a hit. We're going to see our average sales price. Right now, we're 0.89% above. I think that we'll probably end up very close, if not like 0.5%, 1% lower than last year. I do think our median is going to be above. So our median at 650 right here. Last year, we were at 624. If you look at our weekly over here, we're at 634 and 645. I think that our median sales price is going to go up. So that's a good thing in Austin. If you think about our median sales price is the middle house. So we have some luxury homes, and that's going to pull up our average. But our median is really going to give us an idea, especially for my buyers out there, what's the median house going for. That being said, if you were a buyer in Austin, you can still get houses that are substantially below this median price point. I'm talking in the 300s, 400s. If you go out to Kyle, Buda, all those different areas, you can find even lower price point. At the same time, this average price point can be deceiving because we have houses that are listed for 19 million, 30 million that are offline. You're not all seeing all of the prices. So just because you see this 847, if you're in California, you're coming to people like, oh my gosh, Austin, I can buy the average house is 847. Yes, depending on what location. So if you are like downtown in the mix of it, and we are in like the 04, or if we're in 78731, if we're in Terrytown, Clarksville, depending where you are, it's going to be substantially higher. You're going to be looking around like 2 to 3. Okay, that being said, our days on market, very similar to last year. This is where it also gets interesting. You see our closed price to list price. We had a stronger March buying season, which would be April closing season last year. If you're looking at houses were closing anywhere from 0.5% to 1% higher. If we want to compare month over month, this is where it kind of shows like, hey, here's the trends that we're seeing. So month over month, I think we'll beat our average sales price. I think we're still going to be up month over month. That's what you're seeing right here. That 839 is, or sorry, if we looked at last month, in March, we were at 816. And so you can see that we're 31,000 above. If we're looking at the median from last month, we were at 610. Right now, where our median is at 650, that's going to be up. I think that month over month, this is going to be a stronger month. So we can look at it, our data, in two different ways. We can look at month over month. We can look at it for year over year. Year over year, I think we're going to kind of fall a little bit. I think we'll fall short, except for in the median sales price. Median sales price is probably going to be the only big positive year over year. When we start looking at month over month, I think we'll be positive in all of those aspects. I think we're going to have a stronger April than we did in March, but not necessarily a stronger April in 25 than we did in April of 24. That being said, you're also going to see, hey, where did we close out? So if we look at, and I told you this earlier, we had the lowest March, 706 homes that sold. And if you look at our historical average, our low was 718, and this is over 20 years. If you can see right here, our average for the month of April is over 1,000. Our median almost at 1,050. Our lowest was 731. I think we'll beat that. We're at 471 now, just based on, because I can look and see, hey, March we got 706. I can also see what's pending and what's trending. I think we'll be above that. I think we will be in mid sevens, high sevens, but I do think we'll beat that 731 is what we are going to see. So I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to remove this from the screen. If you have any questions about the data, feel free to shoot them in the comment section. I can see them right now. But my big thing that I'm seeing, if you're just joining, you can go back and watch this all. I'll have this on my YouTube channel, which is actually at Austin Real Estate. That's me. You can also look at Danielle Fountain and the One Realty. You'll also be able to find this on X for the full stream. Just look at the _1_realty, and one is spelled out. You can find me. But with that being said, a couple of things. Number one, our number of new pending listings week over week, as far as like the new houses that went pending, we were down by 22%. That is a big. We also saw an increase by almost 1.5%. It was like 1.38% of what we saw for the number of houses, or sorry, it was 1.25%, the number of houses that have had a price drop. So the number of active listings with a price drop, we're at 46.63. This is our 5th week. It is no longer an outlier. It's now starting to become a trend, as well as we saw our median days on market go up by 4 days. So with that being said, if you are a seller, make sure you are doing a proper analysis of your area. If you don't have someone to do a proper analysis, for an agent, reach out. If you have an agent, make sure they pull all this data to kind of talk about what is happening in the area. You do not want to be chasing the wave of the prices. We're seeing price cuts. If you're even thinking about making a price cut, it might be something you want to consider sooner than later while buyers are still there. If you're a buyer and there's a new house that hits the market, I'm still saying you still probably need to be aggressive if the new house hits the market and there's nothing like it, because I'm still seeing the days on market for the average for pending. It's still staying low, which means that new houses are still going quickly. That being said, if there are lots of houses that you're interested in and you're open to old houses that have been on the market for a while, your negotiation standpoint is probably a little bit stronger. So with that, my name is Danielle Marie. I'm from the One Realty here in Austin, Texas. Feel free to shoot me a DM or reach out if you have any questions. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful